I bought the camera for $20 from a flea market on the edge of town. It was an old Sony camcorder from the late 1990s, the kind that recorded onto tiny tapes nobody used anymore. The man selling it sat behind a folding table covered in rusted tools, broken radios, and yellowed photographs. When I picked up the camera, he looked at me for a second too long. "You can have the tapes too," he said quietly. There were 3 of them, stacked beside the camera with faded labels written in black marker. 2 were blank. The 3rd had only 1 word written on it: tomorrow. I laughed and asked if it was some kind of prank. The man didn't laugh back. "Don't record over that tape," he said. That should have been enough to make me leave it there, but I'd always had a weakness for old electronics. I handed him the money, slipped the camera into my backpack, and drove home. By the time I reached my apartment, the sky was already dark. Rain tapped against the windows, and the hallway outside my unit smelled like wet carpet and cigarette smoke. I made coffee, set the camcorder on the kitchen counter, and started cleaning it. The battery was dead, but the charger was included. After 20 minutes, a small green light appeared. The camera still worked. I turned it on and inserted the tape labeled tomorrow. Static flickered across the screen for a second. Then the image appeared. It was my apartment. The camera was pointed from the far corner of the living room, angled toward the kitchen doorway. The lighting was identical to mine. The lamp beside the couch, the dim light over the stove, even the rain streaking down the window. I frowned and looked around the room. Every object was exactly where it was in real life. My backpack sat beside the couch. A coffee mug rested on the table. The kitchen light was on. For a moment, I thought someone had broken into my apartment earlier and recorded it, but that made no sense. I had been at work all day, and the camera had been sitting on a stranger's table until an hour ago. Then, in the recording, I walked into frame. I was wearing the same black hoodie and jeans I had on at that moment. I watched myself cross the living room and head toward the kitchen. The version of me on the tape looked tired, rubbing the back of his neck exactly the way I did after long shifts. My stomach tightened. I paused the video and looked down at my clothes. Same hoodie, same jeans, same white stain near the sleeve. I checked the timestamp displayed in the corner of the screen. 11:47 p.m. I looked at the microwave clock. 11:44 p.m. The recording was showing my apartment 3 minutes in the future. A nervous laugh escaped me. There had to be an explanation. Maybe the timestamp was wrong. Maybe someone had staged this somehow. I pressed play again. The future version of me disappeared into the kitchen. I waited for him to come back out. 1 minute passed, then another. The kitchen doorway remained empty. The camera continued recording the silent living room while rain hissed against the windows. And then, from somewhere off-screen, a loud metallic crash echoed through the apartment. I froze. The version of me on the tape never returned. The recording ended in static. At that exact moment, from my real kitchen, I heard something metal hit the floor. The sound came from my real kitchen. A sharp metallic clang, followed by a scrape across the floor. I nearly dropped the camcorder. For a second, I couldn't move. The tape was still sitting in the camera, the screen filled with frozen static, and my own reflection stared back at me from the dark glass. Then the noise came again. Something was dragging across the tile. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a heavy flashlight from the drawer beside the couch, and stepped toward the kitchen doorway. The light above the stove was still on. Nothing looked out of place at first. The refrigerator hummed softly. Rain tapped against the window over the sink. My coffee mug sat on the counter exactly where I'd left it. Then I looked down. A metal spoon lay in the middle of the floor, spinning slowly in a widening circle as if it had been thrown only seconds earlier. I stared at it, waiting for someone to step out from behind the refrigerator or the pantry door. No one did. The spoon finally stopped moving. I swallowed hard and backed away from the kitchen, keeping the flashlight pointed forward. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The camcorder was still recording. Without taking my eyes off the kitchen, I picked it up and checked the timestamp again. 11:45 p.m. 1 minute ahead now. I pressed play. The recording showed the same empty living room for several seconds. Then the future version of me reappeared at the edge of the kitchen doorway. He looked terrified. He was holding a flashlight, my flashlight, and breathing heavily. He kept glancing over his shoulder into the kitchen, as if something was standing just out of view. I felt a cold wave run through my body. I was watching myself do exactly what I was doing right now. On the tape, future me took 3 quick steps backward into the living room. His mouth moved, but there was no audio. Then he looked directly into the camera. Not at the room, not at the doorway, at the camera itself. His eyes widened, and he raised one shaking hand as if warning whoever was watching. The screen suddenly jerked sideways. For a split second, the kitchen came into view. A dark figure was standing beside the refrigerator, tall, completely still. Its head was tilted at an unnatural angle. Before I could get a better look, the image exploded into static. I paused the tape and slowly turned my flashlight toward my real refrigerator. The space beside it was empty. I took a cautious step forward. Another step. The flashlight beam shook across the floor, the cabinets, the sink. Nothing. I was close enough now to touch the refrigerator handle when I noticed something on the tile near the pantry. A wet footprint. I froze. It was larger than mine, and it looked fresh, as if someone had stepped in water and walked across the floor moments ago. One footprint, then another. They led directly to the pantry door. The door was closed. I knew I had left it open earlier. My hand tightened around the flashlight. Very slowly, I reached for the pantry knob, and from the other side of the door, I heard breathing. The breathing was slow, too slow. A long inhale, then a pause that lasted several seconds, followed by a shaky exhale. I stood frozen with my hand wrapped around the pantry knob, the flashlight beam trembling across the white door. Another breath came from inside. The apartment suddenly felt much smaller. The refrigerator hummed behind me. Rain rattled against the kitchen window, and somewhere in the living room the camcorder's tape motor clicked softly as it waited. I should have called the police. Instead, I did the stupid thing horror movies always warn you not to do. I opened the door. The pantry was empty. Canned food lined the shelves. A box of cereal sat on the top rack. Cleaning supplies were stacked near the floor. The flashlight beam reached all the way to the back wall. No person, no shadow, no place for anyone to hide. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and stepped back. Then I noticed the floor. The wet footprints continued into the pantry, and they stopped directly in front of the back wall. I crouched down, shining the light closer. The wall looked normal except for a thin vertical crack running from the floor to about waist height. The paint around it was darker, damp, as if moisture had seeped through from the other side. I touched it. Cold. Not just cool, ice cold. A faint vibration pulsed beneath my fingertips, almost like I was touching the side of a running engine. The breathing came again. This time it was behind me. I spun around so fast I slammed my shoulder into the shelf. The pantry doorway was empty, but the camcorder, which I had left on the kitchen counter, had turned itself toward the pantry. The lens was pointed directly at me. A red recording light blinked steadily. I stared at it for a second, confused. I was sure I had stopped the tape. Then the camera's flip-out screen slowly rotated open on its own. Static filled the display for a moment before the image cleared. It showed the pantry, but not the pantry I was standing in. In the recording, the shelves were gone. The back wall was missing, replaced by a narrow hallway made of stained concrete. Dim yellow lights flickered overhead, stretching into darkness. And standing at the far end of that hallway was a woman. She wore a dark coat and held one hand against the wall as if she were injured. Her hair hung over part of her face, but I could tell she was looking directly at the camera. Then she spoke. This time there was audio. A whisper crackled through the tiny speaker. "Don't let him open the door." My skin went numb. The woman took a step toward the camera. I recognized her immediately. It was the woman from the dating app profile. The last person I had matched with. The one who was supposed to be dead. A loud thump shook the pantry wall behind me. I jumped and turned around. The crack in the wall had widened. Another thump came from the other side, harder this time, followed by the sound of something dragging across concrete. The camcorder speaker hissed again. "He knows you found the tape." The woman was closer now, her face pale and exhausted. I grabbed the camera and backed out of the pantry, keeping the flashlight pointed at the crack. "Who are you?" I whispered. The woman looked over her shoulder into the darkness behind her. When she turned back, her expression had changed from fear to urgency. "At 11:47, someone is going to knock on your apartment door." I looked at the microwave clock. 11:46 p.m. My mouth went dry. The woman leaned closer to the camera, and for a split second the image sharpened enough for me to see bruises around her throat. "Whatever you do," she whispered, "don't answer it." The screen erupted into static, and from the front of my apartment came 3 slow knocks. Knock, pause, knock, another pause, knock. I stood in the kitchen, one hand clutching the camcorder, the other gripping the flashlight, while the knocking echoed through the apartment exactly 1 minute before the tape had predicted it. Then a man's voice came through the front door. "Ethan, it's your neighbor. I need help." The voice on the other side of the door sounded exactly like my neighbor, Mr. Harlan. He lived in apartment 3B across the hall, a retired electrician who spent most evenings watching old baseball games with the volume too loud. I'd helped him carry groceries upstairs a few times, and he always called me by my first name. "Ethan, you there?" Another knock followed, firmer this time. My instinct was to answer. If he really needed help and I ignored him, I'd never forgive myself. Then I looked down at the camcorder. The screen was black now, but the woman's warning still echoed in my head. "Don't answer it." I backed away from the kitchen and moved into the living room, keeping my footsteps as quiet as possible. The knocking came again, 3 slow taps that seemed unnaturally measured. "Knock, knock, knock, Ethan," the voice said. "I think someone's been in my apartment." A cold sweat broke across my neck. Mr. Harlan never sounded frightened. He was the kind of man who complained about everything, weather, noise, the price of coffee, but he never sounded scared. I reached the front door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I blinked and looked again. Still empty, but the voice came once more, now from directly outside the door. "Please, open up." My stomach twisted. The voice was too clear, too close, for the hallway to be empty. I stepped back from the peephole, and that was when I noticed the deadbolt. It was moving, not turning all the way, just trembling slightly, as if someone on the other side was testing it with careful pressure. The flashlight slipped in my sweaty grip. The voice changed. It was still Mr. Harlan's voice, but the tone became flatter, almost mechanical. "You found the tape." Every hair on my arms stood up. I took another step backward. The deadbolt stopped moving. For several seconds, there was complete silence. Then, from the hallway, I heard footsteps walking away from my door. 1 step, 2, 3. They stopped. A second later, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I nearly shouted. With shaking hands, I pulled it out. "Mr. Harlan was calling me." I stared at the screen while it vibrated. If he was calling me, then who had been outside my door? I answered. "Ethan?" Mr. Harlan sounded confused. "Why are you calling me?" "I'm not," I whispered. There was a pause. "I just got a missed call from your number," he said. "Everything okay over there?" My blood turned to ice. I hadn't called him. Before I could respond, a loud crash came from the kitchen. I spun around. The pantry door had swung wide open. A freezing gust of air rushed through the apartment, carrying the smell of damp concrete and something metallic, like rusted pipes. Mr. Harlan was still talking through the phone. "Ethan? What was that?" I walked slowly toward the kitchen. The crack in the pantry wall was wider now, wide enough to slide a hand through. Yellow light flickered from the other side, and from somewhere beyond that wall, I heard footsteps approaching. Not in my apartment. On the other side of the concrete hallway from the tape. The footsteps stopped just beyond the crack. A shadow moved across the opening. Then a man's voice whispered from inside the wall, inches from my face. You should have opened the door. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping the flashlight. The voice had come from the other side of the crack, close enough that I could feel the breath through the opening. Mr. Harlan was still on the phone. Ethan? Talk to me. What's happening? I forced myself to answer. Stay in your apartment, I whispered. Lock your door and don't come out for any reason. What? Why? Just do it. I ended the call before he could argue. The pantry was filled with freezing air now. The temperature had dropped so suddenly that my breath became visible in front of me. The yellow light beyond the crack flickered again, and I realized it wasn't electrical. It looked like old fluorescent lights struggling to stay alive. I raised the camcorder. The screen showed the concrete hallway more clearly than before. Water dripped from exposed pipes overhead, and the floor was stained dark with moisture. The camera seemed to be adjusting itself automatically, focusing deeper into the corridor. Then I saw the man. He stood about 20 feet away, half hidden in the shadows. He was tall and thin, wearing a dark jacket that looked soaked with water. His face was impossible to make out. Every time the image sharpened, static crawled across his features. He took one step forward. The crack in my pantry wall widened with a sharp crack. Dust drifted down onto the shelves. I should have run. Instead, I crouched beside the opening and shined the flashlight through it. The beam disappeared into the hallway. The space behind my pantry was real. Concrete, pipes, water. A corridor that had no business existing inside my apartment building. The man stopped moving. For several seconds, we stared at each other through the gap. Then the camcorder speaker hissed. Don't let him see your face. The woman's voice again. I jerked the camera toward the screen. She was back, much closer than before. Her face filled most of the display, pale and exhausted, with dark bruises circling her throat. He can't cross unless you invite him, she whispered. The tape is the invitation. What are you talking about? I asked. She looked terrified, glancing over her shoulder into the darkness behind her. When someone watches the tape to the end, the hallway opens. That's how he finds the next apartment. A cold pressure settled in my chest. How many apartments? Her eyes met mine. All of them. A sudden bang echoed from the hallway behind the wall. The man had moved again. This time he was only a few feet from the crack. I could hear water dripping from his clothes. The woman spoke quickly, as if she was running out of time. You need to destroy the tape before midnight. I looked at the microwave clock. 11:52 p.m. 8 minutes. How? Magnet, fire, anything. But don't let him touch the camera. The fluorescent lights in the hallway began to flicker violently. The woman turned around, and I caught a glimpse of something moving behind her. Multiple shadows shifting in the darkness. Her expression changed to panic. He's not alone anymore. The screen distorted. For a split second, the image switched from the hallway to my own apartment. I was standing in the pantry holding the camera, and behind me, in the reflection of the microwave door, a second figure was standing in the kitchen. Tall, motionless, watching me. I spun around. The kitchen was empty. When I looked back at the camcorder, the reflection was gone. Then a wet hand slammed against the crack from the other side. Fingers pushed through the opening, pale and waterlogged, scraping against the pantry shelf. I jumped back as the hand groped blindly into my apartment. Another hand appeared beside it, then a third. Something on the other side was trying to pull the wall apart. The camcorder speaker erupted with static, and the woman screamed, "Run!" The pantry wall split open with a deafening crack, revealing a gap wide enough for a person to crawl through. And from the darkness of the hallway, the tall man began to climb into my apartment. The wall burst inward with a shower of plaster and dust. I ran. The flashlight beam bounced wildly across the kitchen as I sprinted into the living room, clutching the camcorder against my chest. Behind me, I heard the scrape of wet shoes on tile and the slow, deliberate sound of someone pulling himself through the opening. Not running, crawling. The kind of movement that said he already knew I had nowhere to go. I reached the front door and grabbed the deadbolt. It wouldn't move. I twisted it harder, still stuck. A freezing breath touched the back of my neck. I spun around. The pantry opening was visible from the living room now, a jagged hole in the wall leading into the concrete hallway. The tall man had emerged halfway into my apartment. His clothes dripped water onto the floor, forming a dark trail behind him. And his face, every time I tried to focus on it, my vision blurred. It was as if my eyes refused to hold the image. I could make out a pale forehead, dark hollows where the eyes should be, and a mouth stretched into a faint smile. The camcorder crackled. The screen turned on by itself. The woman appeared again, breathing hard as if she had been running. "He can't touch you before midnight," she said, "but he can make you open the door." "What door?" I whispered. Her eyes widened. "The one behind you." I turned. At the end of my hallway, where my bedroom door should have been, there was a red door I had never seen before. The paint looked fresh, glossy under the dim apartment light. Water dripped from the frame onto the carpet. My bedroom door was gone. The tall man took another step into the living room. The temperature dropped further. Frost began creeping across the edges of the window glass. "You're seeing it now," the woman said through the camcorder. "That means the hallway has fully connected to your apartment. How do I stop it?" "Destroy the tape." I looked down at the camcorder. The tape was still inside. The man's head tilted slightly, as if he had heard our conversation. Then, for the first time, he spoke. "Give it to me." His voice sounded wrong, like several voices layered together, some whispering, some speaking normally, all slightly out of sync. "Give me the tape, Ethan." He knew my name. I backed toward the kitchen. The red door remained in my peripheral vision, impossibly present, as though it had always been part of the apartment. The microwave clock read 11:55 p.m. 5 minutes. I yanked open a drawer, searching for anything useful. My fingers closed around a box of matches and a bottle of rubbing alcohol. The woman saw them and nodded urgently. "Good. Burn it." I pulled the tape compartment open. The tiny cassette slid out into my hand. The moment it left the camera, the tall man stopped moving. For the first time, I could see his face clearly. My stomach dropped. It was me. Older, thinner, skin pale from years underground. His eyes were dark and exhausted, and a long scar ran from his left temple down to his jaw. Future me smiled weakly. "I've been trying to get back for a very long time," he said. My mind refused to process it. "No, you watched the tape," he continued, "just like I did. And before me, someone else did." He looked toward the red door. "That door is where the hallway takes you after midnight." The woman's voice cut through the static. "He's lying. He wants you to keep the tape intact." Future me's expression hardened. "If you burn it, she stays trapped there forever." The woman slammed her hand against the camcorder screen from inside the hallway. "Ethan, listen to me. I burned my tape and he followed me anyway. The camera is the anchor. Destroy both." The red door creaked open by itself. Beyond it was not my bedroom. A concrete stairwell descended into darkness, lit by the same flickering yellow lights from the hallway. A cold wind poured out of the doorway. Future me took one slow step forward. "Come with me," he said softly. "I can show you how to survive down there." The microwave clock changed to 11:56 p.m. For minutes left, I stood in the center of the living room, holding the tape in one hand and the bottle of alcohol in the other, while the red door yawned open behind me and the future version of myself waited beside the hallway. Then my phone buzzed again. A new text message appeared from an unknown number. "Don't let him reach midnight." The text message glowed on my screen. "Don't let him reach midnight." No number, no contact name, just those 5 words. I looked up slowly. Future me had stopped moving. His eyes were fixed on the phone in my hand, and for the first time I saw genuine fear on his face. "Who sent that?" I asked. He didn't answer. The camcorder crackled with static, and the woman's voice came through in a whisper. "He can't stay here after midnight unless he takes your place." My blood turned cold. Future me took another step forward, raising his hands as if trying to calm me down. "That's not what's happening," he said. She's manipulating you. She wants you to destroy the camera because it's the only way she can escape the hallway. Then why are you afraid of midnight? His expression tightened. I'm not afraid of midnight. I'm afraid of what happens to you after it. The red door behind me creaked wider. The concrete stairwell descended into darkness, and somewhere far below I heard the echo of distant footsteps. Dozens of them moving slowly upward. The microwave clock read 11:57 p.m. 3 minutes. I poured rubbing alcohol over the tape cassette. The chemical smell filled the living room. Future me's voice sharpened instantly. Don't do that. The woman shouted through the camcorder. Burn it now. I struck a match. The flame flared to life, tiny and orange against the dark apartment. Future me moved. He crossed the room with impossible speed, faster than any human should have been able to move. 1 second he was beside the hallway opening. The next he was only a few feet away from me. I threw the burning match. It landed on the tape in my hand. Flames raced across the alcohol-soaked plastic. Future me lunged. I stumbled backward, and the burning tape fell onto the carpet between us. Fire spread in a bright circle. The moment the tape caught fire, the apartment shook violently. The jagged opening in the pantry wall began to collapse inward. Concrete cracked, pipes screamed, and the yellow lights in the hidden hallway flickered wildly. Future me froze in the middle of the room. His body started to distort, edges blurring like a damaged video signal. No, he whispered. The red door slammed shut behind me with a thunderous bang. The woman appeared on the camcorder screen one last time. Relief flooded her face. It's working, she said. Now destroy the camera too. I grabbed the camcorder and raised it over my head. Future me looked directly at me, and his voice changed again. No longer layered and unnatural, but desperate and human. Ethan, wait. If you break it, I can't warn you. Warn me about what? His eyes widened. About the second tape. The microwave clock changed to 11:58 p.m. The flames on the carpet suddenly went out by themselves. A thick silence filled the apartment. Then, from inside the camcorder, I heard a mechanical click. The tape compartment opened on its own. Inside was another cassette, black, unlabeled. I stared at it, confused. I told you there were 3 tapes, Future me said quietly. You only burned the first one. The woman's face vanished from the screen, replaced by static. Future me's body continued flickering, becoming more transparent with each passing second. You have to listen carefully, he said. At midnight, the second tape will start recording automatically. Recording what? He looked toward the front door. A shadow passed beneath it. Not a person walking by, something standing directly outside, blocking the hallway light. Future me whispered, the person who comes to collect the camera. A slow knock echoed through the apartment. Knock. The deadbolt began to turn by itself. Knock. A second lock clicked open. Knock. The final lock released with a metallic snap. The microwave clock flipped to 11:59 p.m., and the front door started to open. The front door opened only a few inches. Cold air slipped through the gap, carrying the smell of wet pavement and something older. Dust, mildew, and burned electrical wires. I stood frozen in the living room, the camcorder clutched against my chest. Future me was fading rapidly now. Parts of his body were becoming transparent, as if he were being erased frame by frame. Don't let him inside, he whispered. The door creaked wider. A black leather glove appeared first, resting lightly on the edge of the door. Then a man stepped into view. He was tall and thin, dressed in a dark coat that looked completely dry despite the rain outside. His face was pale, almost colorless, and his hair was combed neatly back. He could have passed for a funeral director if not for his eyes. They were the wrong color. Not black like the thing in the hallway, silver, reflective like old camera film. He looked directly at the camcorder in my hands. There it is, he said calmly. His voice was polite, educated, and completely free of emotion. The first tape has been destroyed, I see. My throat tightened. Who are you? The man stepped 1 foot across the threshold. Future me shouted, "Ethan, stop him!" I grabbed the door and tried to push it shut, but it wouldn't move. It felt as though someone had welded it open. The silver-eyed man didn't resist. He simply stood there watching me struggle. "You've already invited the hallway into your apartment," he said. "A door that has been opened cannot be closed by force." The microwave clock ticked silently toward midnight. 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 20 seconds. The camcorder suddenly grew warm in my hands. The unlabeled black tape began spinning inside the compartment even though I hadn't pressed record. A red light blinked on. "Rec." The silver-eyed man smiled faintly. "Good. It has started." Future me was now barely visible, a ghostly outline near the collapsed pantry wall. "Ethan, listen to me," he said. "The second tape records the next victim. If it finishes recording, the hallway will have your face." I looked down at the camcorder screen. The image was live. It showed my apartment from somewhere near the ceiling, looking down into the living room. I could see myself holding the camera. I could see the silver-eyed man standing in the doorway. And behind me, near the closed red door, I could see another version of myself standing perfectly still. I spun around. Nothing was there. When I looked back at the screen, the second version of me was gone. The silver-eyed man took another step inside. "Please hand me the camera," he said. "You're making this much more difficult than it needs to be." "What happens if I do?" "You go back to your life." Future me laughed weakly. "That's the first lie he tells everyone." The silver-eyed man ignored him. "You'll forget tonight. The hallway will close. The woman will remain where she belongs. And you'll wake up tomorrow believing the camera never worked." For one dangerous second, I wanted to believe him. Then the camcorder screen changed. The timestamp read 12 hours. The recording had jumped ahead. On the screen, I watched myself hand the camera to the silver-eyed man. He smiled, turned toward the hallway, and walked out of the apartment with it. Then the future recording continued. I followed him. The screen showed me stepping through the doorway after him, moving like someone in a trance. The hallway outside my apartment was dark and empty. At the far end, a red door stood open. The silver-eyed man disappeared through it. Future me on the screen followed. And then I followed. The door closed behind us. The recording ended in static. My hands started shaking. "That's not going to happen," I whispered. "It already has," the silver-eyed man replied softly. "You're simply watching the memory before you experience it." The microwave clock changed. 12 a.m. Every light in the apartment went out. The camcorder screamed with feedback. The red door burst open behind me, and a blast of freezing air knocked me to my knees. Deep below the apartment, hundreds of voices began whispering my name. "Ethan! Ethan! Ethan!" The silver-eyed man stepped fully into the apartment for the first time, and future me vanished completely. The whispers were everywhere. Not coming from the hallway, not coming from the red door, from inside the walls. "Ethan! Ethan! Ethan!" The sound crawled through the apartment like water moving through pipes, surrounding me from every direction. I pushed myself up from the floor, gripping the camcorder so tightly my knuckles hurt. The silver-eyed man stood in the center of the living room, perfectly calm while the darkness moved around him. "All recordings begin at midnight," he said. The camcorder screen flickered. A new image appeared. It was my apartment again, but not the one I was standing in. The living room was abandoned. Dust covered the furniture, the windows were boarded up, and the walls were stained with moisture. The camera slowly panned toward the hallway. The red door was already open. On the screen, a man stepped out of it. He looked exactly like me, older, thinner, the same exhausted face I had seen in the hallway. He walked into the ruined living room and looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this," he said, "you still have a chance to stop the recording." The silver-eyed man's expression darkened slightly. "Turn it off," he said. I ignored him. Future me continued speaking. "The second tape doesn't record video. It records identity. Every minute it runs, it copies you into the hallway and replaces pieces of you with whatever lives there. A sharp pain stabbed through my left hand. I looked down. The skin around my fingertips had turned pale gray, like old film. The silver-eyed man took a step toward me. "That's enough." I backed away. "Stay away from me." The camcorder image suddenly changed again. Now it showed the hallway outside my apartment door in real time. A dark figure was standing there, tall, motionless. The same thing that had tried to climb through the pantry wall. The silver-eyed man saw it too. For the first time, he looked uneasy. It found the apartment faster than it should have. The figure tilted its head. Then it started walking toward the door. Thump. One slow step. Thump. Another. The walls vibrated with each footstep. Future me spoke urgently through the camcorder. "Listen carefully. The collector can control the doors, but he can't stop the recording once it starts. If the tape reaches 12:13, the hallway becomes permanent." I checked the camcorder timestamp. 12:03 a.m. 10 minutes left. The silver-eyed man moved again, faster this time. I grabbed the bottle of rubbing alcohol from the kitchen counter and threw it at him. The bottle shattered against his coat, soaking him. He stopped. I struck another match. For the first time, real fear flashed across his face. "Ethan," he said quietly, "if you burn this camera, you burn every copy of yourself that still exists." I hesitated. That was all the time he needed. He lunged. I dropped the match and twisted away as his hand closed around my wrist. His grip was impossibly cold, and the gray discoloration spread up my arm like frost. The camcorder slipped from my hand and hit the floor. The screen kept recording. The dark figure outside reached the apartment door. Boom! The entire frame shook. A crack split the wood from top to bottom. The silver-eyed man released me and turned toward the door, suddenly furious. "You were not invited." Another impact hit the door. Boom! The deadbolt bent inward. The dark figure was trying to force its way inside. The camcorder speaker erupted with static, and the woman's voice returned. "Ethan, the camera now." I dove across the floor, grabbed the camcorder, and scrambled backward toward the kitchen. The timestamp read 12:06 a.m. 7 minutes. The silver-eyed man was shouting at the door in a language I didn't recognize. The shadows around the frame twisted and wrapped around his arms as he tried to hold it shut. Then the door exploded inward. The tall, dark figure stepped into the apartment. And both of them, the silver-eyed collector and the thing from the hallway, turned to look at me at the exact same moment. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. The silver-eyed collector stood near the shattered front door, shadows coiling around his arms like black smoke. The tall, dark figure from the hallway stood in the doorway itself, water dripping from its clothes onto the carpet. And both of them were staring at me. The apartment felt impossibly cold. Frost spread across the walls, creeping over picture frames and electrical outlets. The only light came from the camcorder screen glowing in my hands. The collector spoke first. "Give me the camera, Ethan." The dark figure tilted its head and whispered in a voice that sounded like mine. "Keep it." I backed into the kitchen, my pulse hammering so hard I could barely hear anything else. The camcorder timestamp read 12:07 a.m. 6 minutes left. The woman appeared on the screen again, her image flickering violently. "They're both using you," she said. "One wants the recording finished. The other wants the recording to continue forever. What do I do?" Her answer came immediately. "Make them fight." Before I could ask how, the collector stepped toward me. The dark figure moved too. They collided in the center of the living room. The sound was wrong. Not the sound of two bodies hitting each other, but the screech of metal dragged across concrete. Shadows burst outward, slamming into the walls and ceiling. The collector drove the figure backward with surprising strength, silver light flashing from his eyes. "You belong in the hallway," he hissed. The dark figure answered in my voice. "So do you." It grabbed the collector's face with both hands. The collector screamed. Silver light leaked between the figure's fingers like burning film, and for a second the collector's human appearance peeled away. Beneath it was something thin and skeletal, made of tangled strips of darkness that writhed like exposed magnetic tape. I stared in horror. The woman shouted through the camcorder, "Now, Ethan." The red door. I turned toward the hallway. The red door was open again. Beyond it, the concrete stairwell descended into darkness. But this time I could see something at the bottom. A large steel door with a glowing red symbol painted across it. The collector saw where I was looking. His expression changed instantly. "No!" He threw the dark figure aside and lunged toward me. I ran. I sprinted down the hallway and through the red doorway. The air became damp and freezing, smelling of rust and stagnant water. Behind me, I heard the collector's footsteps pounding down the stairs. The camcorder screen showed the woman running beside me from somewhere else in the hallway, perfectly synchronized with my movement. "At the bottom," she said, "there's a recording room. Every victim is copied there." The stairwell seemed much longer than it should have been. Yellow fluorescent lights flickered overhead, buzzing like angry insects. Halfway down, I looked back. The collector was gaining on me, but the dark figure was following him. It climbed down the stairs on all fours, moving with terrifying speed, its head twisted at an impossible angle. The collector heard it and looked back. That hesitation saved me. I reached the bottom landing and found the steel door. The red symbol on it looked like two overlapping circles with a vertical line through the center. The camcorder beeped. 12:10 a.m. 3 minutes. "How do I open it?" I shouted. The woman pointed to a slot beside the door. "The tape." I pulled the black cassette from the camcorder and slid it into the slot. The steel door unlocked with a heavy clunk. Pushed it open. Inside was a circular room lined with old television monitors and shelves filled with hundreds of videotapes. Some were labeled with names and dates. Others were completely black. In the center of the room stood a single camera mounted on a tripod, aimed at an empty chair. A red light blinked on the camera. "Rec." The woman appeared on every monitor at once. "This is where he records replacements," she said. "If you sit in that chair when the timer reaches 12:13, the hallway gets a permanent copy of you." A crash echoed from the stairwell. The collector had reached the bottom. He appeared in the doorway, breathing hard, his human disguise flickering. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said. "If this room is destroyed, the hallway will open everywhere." The dark figure emerged behind him, smiling with my face. The monitors around the room suddenly switched on by themselves. Every screen showed a different apartment, different people, different years. And on each screen, a red door was beginning to appear. The camcorder timestamp changed. 12:11 a.m. 2 minutes left. The collector looked at me one last time. "Choose, Ethan," he said quietly. "Save yourself or save the others." Then the dark figure attacked him again, and the recording room shook as the two monsters crashed into the shelves of tapes. The two monsters slammed into the shelves of videotapes, sending hundreds of cassettes crashing across the floor. The collector's silver eyes flashed through the darkness as he struggled with the thing wearing my face. Every time the dark figure touched him, parts of his body flickered like damaged film. I stood frozen beside the steel door, the camcorder clutched against my chest. The timestamp read, 12 hours, 11 minutes, and 32 seconds. 90 seconds. The woman appeared on every monitor around the room, her image shaking with static. "Ethan, listen to me," she said. "The chair is the anchor point. As long as it exists, the hallway can keep making copies." I looked at the empty chair in the center of the room. Leather straps hung from the armrests. The camera on the tripod was pointed directly at it, the red recording light blinking steadily. "Rec." The collector threw the dark figure into a wall of monitors. Glass exploded across the floor. "Don't touch the chair," he shouted. "You'll trigger the final recording." The dark figure laughed with my voice. "He's lying again." It sprang back up and wrapped both arms around the collector. Shadows poured from its body, swallowing the silver light around his eyes. The room shook violently. A low mechanical hum began rising from beneath the floor. The camcorder screen suddenly changed. It was showing the chair, and someone was already sitting in it. Me. My hands were strapped down, my head hanging forward. The future version of me slowly lifted his face toward the camera. His eyes were completely black. "Don't let it finish," he whispered. The screen cut back to live view. I looked at the timestamp. 12 hours, 12 minutes, and 1 second. 59 seconds. The woman's voice became urgent. "The tape's on the floor. Look for the oldest one." I dropped to my knees and started searching through the scattered cassettes. Names flashed past my eyes. Mara, 1998. Daniel, 2003. K. Harlan, 2011. Unknown, 1976. My breath caught. I grabbed the tape labeled Unknown, 1976. The plastic was cracked with age, and the magnetic tape inside looked almost brown. The moment I touched it, every monitor in the room flickered. A new image appeared on all of them simultaneously. A black and white recording showed the same room, decades earlier. A terrified man sat in the chair while a much younger version of the collector stood behind the camera. "You were the first one," I whispered. The collector heard me. His expression changed from anger to horror. "Put that tape down." The woman nodded frantically from the monitors. "He used the first victim to build the hallway. If that tape is destroyed, the entire recording system collapses." The dark figure tightened its grip on the collector and smiled at me. "Do it," the collector screamed. "Don't listen to him. If you destroy that tape, the hallway won't close. It will tear open everywhere at once." I didn't know who was telling the truth anymore. The mechanical hum beneath the floor grew louder. The camera on the tripod began turning by itself, its lens slowly rotating toward me. 12 hours, 12 minutes, and 27 seconds. 33 seconds. The leather straps on the chair snapped open as if inviting me to sit down. The camcorder speaker hissed. The woman's voice came through one last time, softer now. "Ethan, if the recording reaches 12:13, it won't just copy you." She looked directly at me. "It will replace you." The tripod camera locked onto my face. A blinding red light flooded the room. And somewhere deep inside the hallway, thousands of voices began counting down in unison. 30, 29, 28. I stood between the fighting monsters, holding the first tape ever made, while the red recording light burned into my eyes and the countdown echoed through the walls. Then the collector broke free of the dark figure and lunged straight at me. The collector lunged at me. I raised the 1976 tape instinctively, and his hand stopped inches from my face. For the first time since midnight, I saw pure terror in his silver eyes. "Don't," he whispered. The countdown thundered through the walls. 10. The dark figure was already behind him, its black eyes fixed on the tape in my hand. 9. The red recording light burned across the room, and every monitor showed the same image. Me sitting in the chair, staring into the camera with empty black eyes. 8. I understood then. The hallway didn't just kill people. It replaced them one recording at a time. Every victim became another copy wandering those concrete corridors forever. The woman's voice came through the camcorder one final time. "Ethan, end the first recording." 7. The collector reached for me again. I stepped backward toward the center of the room, holding the tape over the exposed electrical panel beneath the tripod camera. "Ethan, listen to me," he said desperately. "If you destroy it, none of us survive." I looked at the monitors. Dozens of apartments, dozens of red doors appearing, dozens of future victims. 6. The dark figure smiled. "Burn it." 5. I grabbed a loose electrical cable sparking near the shattered equipment. The collector screamed, "No!" 4. I pressed the cable against the tape. Sparks exploded across the plastic. The magnetic film inside began to melt. The entire room convulsed. Every monitor flashed white. The dark figure shrieked. A sound so high and distorted it felt like it was tearing through my skull. 3. Cracks spread across the concrete walls. The hallway beyond the steel door began collapsing inward, lights bursting one by one. The collector staggered backward, his body unraveling into strips of black tape that whipped through the air. "You don't know what you've done," he shouted. 2. I threw the burning cassette into the center of the room. The flames turned silver. The tripod camera exploded. Every screen went black. The red recording light died. 1. Silence. For a fraction of a second, everything stopped. Then the floor disappeared beneath me. I fell through darkness, through collapsing concrete, through thousands of whispering voices that suddenly cut off mid-sentence. And I woke up on the floor of my apartment. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows. The kitchen wall was intact. The pantry was open. No crack. No hallway. My phone showed 7:14 a.m. For several minutes, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it had all been a dream. Then I noticed the camcorder beside me. It was burned black and partially melted. The tape compartment hung open, empty. My hands were shaking as I stood up. The apartment looked completely normal except for one thing. On the carpet near the front door was a trail of wet footprints leading to the hallway. I opened the door. The corridor was empty. Across the hall, apartment 3B was silent. I knocked once. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. Then I saw the note taped to Mr. Harlan's door. Tenant moved out unexpectedly. The date on the notice was yesterday. My stomach dropped. I went back inside and locked the door. That was when my phone buzzed. A new text message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. Thank you for ending the first recording. The others are waking up now. Before I could react, another message arrived. There are still 2 tapes missing. And then a final message. Check your mailbox before sunset. Don't let anyone else play them. I stared at the screen while the burned camcorder sat silently on the floor. Outside, somewhere down the hall, I heard the elevator open. A slow pair of footsteps stepped out, and then came 3 measured knocks on a door that wasn't mine. I didn't move for a long time after the last text message. The apartment was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic outside and the occasional creak of the building settling in the morning heat. The burned camcorder still lay on the carpet, melted and useless, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. 2 tapes missing. The words kept replaying in my head. I checked the sender's number. Unknown. No call history, no location, nothing. When I tried to reply, the message failed immediately. I spent the next few hours pretending everything was normal. I made coffee. I cleaned the broken glass that somehow wasn't there anymore. I even turned on the TV for background noise, but every channel felt too loud, too alive. At 5:42 p.m., I finally opened my front door. The hallway was empty. The elevator sat on the 3rd floor with its doors closed. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, and for a moment I wondered if I had imagined the footsteps from earlier. Then I noticed my mailbox key hanging on the hook by the door. My stomach tightened. The lobby was only 1 floor down, but the walk felt much longer. Every stair creak made me look over my shoulder. By the time I reached the mailboxes, my palms were damp with sweat. Box 3A was slightly open. I was sure I had locked it the day before. I pulled the door open carefully. Inside was a single padded envelope. No stamp, no return address, just my name written in black ink. Ethan, do not play both. My hands shook as I carried it back upstairs. The apartment felt colder the moment I stepped inside. I locked the door, closed the curtains, and set the envelope on the kitchen table. For nearly a minute, I just stared at it, listening to my own breathing. Then I opened it. 2 videotapes slid onto the table. One was gray and badly scratched. The label read, Apartment 3A, 1998. The second tape was black, completely black with no label at all. The same type as the tape that had been recording me at midnight. Tucked beneath them was a folded piece of paper. I opened it carefully. If you are reading this, the first recording was destroyed and the hallway has become unstable. The gray tape shows how the cycle began in your apartment. The black tape is a new recording. It has not chosen a face yet. Do not play both tapes on the same night. If the black tape finishes recording while the gray tape is active, the hallway will reopen and it will know where to find you again. There was no signature, only a small symbol at the bottom, 2 overlapping circles with a vertical line through them. the same symbol that had been on the steel door in the recording room. I reached for the gray tape. The plastic was cold, much colder than it should have been. As soon as I touched it, a faint whisper brushed against my ear. "Help me." I snatched my hand back. The whisper stopped. The black tape remained perfectly still on the table, but I couldn't stop looking at it. Its surface was so dark it seemed to absorb the kitchen light. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. A tiny red light was glowing on the burned camcorder across the room. Impossible. The battery had melted. The camera was dead. Slowly, with a faint mechanical whine, the tape compartment began to open by itself. Empty. But from somewhere inside the apartment, I heard the sound of a tape motor starting. Click, whir. The black cassette on the table began to spin on its own. A thin strip of magnetic tape slid out from the edge, inch by inch like a tongue. My phone buzzed. A new message appeared. It has started looking for a face. Leave the apartment before 6 p.m. I checked the time. 5:58 p.m. The black tape was spinning faster now, and from the hallway outside my apartment came 3 slow knocks. Knock. Pause. Knock. Another pause. Knock. Then a familiar voice spoke through the door. "Ethan, it's me, Mr. Harlan. I think I found the other camera." My blood turned to ice. Mr. Harlan's voice came through the door clearly, with the same tired rasp I'd heard 100 times before. "Ethan, you there? I found another camera in the basement." The black tape on my kitchen table spun faster. The strip of magnetic film had stretched halfway across the table now, twitching slightly as if it were alive. My phone still showed the warning. Leave the apartment before 6 p.m. I checked the clock. 5:59 p.m. 1 minute. The knocks came again. Knock. 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 "Ethan, please open the door." I forced myself not to move toward it. The burned camcorder across the room emitted another mechanical whine. The empty tape compartment snapped shut by itself. Then the red light turned solid. Wreck. A faint static hiss filled the apartment. I backed away from the front door and grabbed the gray tape labeled Apartment 3A, 1998. The moment I touched it, images flashed through my mind, brief, fragmented, like frames from a damaged film reel. A young woman running down a concrete hallway, a red door slamming shut, a camera falling to the floor, and a man whispering, "Don't let it record your face." I nearly dropped the tape. Outside, Mr. Harlan's voice became more urgent. It followed me from the basement. "Ethan, I think it wants the camera back." The black tape suddenly stopped spinning. Silence. For one terrible second, I thought it was over. Then the magnetic strip lifted off the table by itself. It rose into the air like a thin black ribbon and pointed toward the front door. The voice outside changed. It was still Mr. Harlan's voice, but underneath it I heard another voice speaking at the same time, lower, distorted, slightly delayed. "You already opened the hallway once." I stepped backward into the living room. The apartment lights flickered. The burned camcorder screen turned on. Instead of static, it showed the hallway outside my door. Mr. Harlan was standing there, or something wearing him. His body looked slightly wrong, stretched too tall beneath his coat. His smile was too wide, and his eyes reflected the hallway light with the same silver sheen the collector had possessed. In his right hand, he was holding another camcorder. Old, black, water dripped from it onto the carpet. On the camcorder screen, the fake Mr. Harlan looked directly into the lens. Then he raised his free hand and knocked on my door. The knock happened on the screen and in real life at the exact same moment. Boom! The door shook in its frame. The black tape floating in my apartment jerked toward the door as if pulled by an invisible force. My phone buzzed again. 30 seconds. I looked around desperately. If I left through the front door, I'd have to pass whatever was pretending to be Mr. Harlan. The windows were 3 stories up. The pantry. I turned toward the kitchen. The pantry door was slowly swinging open by itself. Darkness waited beyond it, not the concrete hallway from before. This darkness was deeper, almost liquid, and faint yellow lights flickered far away inside it. The black tape began drifting toward the pantry instead of the front door. Another text appeared. The hallway is unstable. Use it now or lose the exit. My heart hammered against my ribs. Behind me, the fake Mr. Harlan spoke through the door in a calm, almost friendly tone. Ethan, if you leave through the pantry, you'll never find your way back. The floating tape twitched. The camcorder screen showed him smiling wider. Then he lifted the second camera and aimed it directly at my apartment door. A red recording light blinked on. Rec. The lights in my apartment went out. The pantry darkness began pulling air into it with a low roaring sound, like a tunnel opening underground. And the fake Mr. Harlan whispered through the door. Choose quickly. The new recording has already started. The pantry darkness roared like a tunnel opening beneath the building. Cold air pulled at my clothes, dragging loose papers across the kitchen floor and tugging the black tape toward the opening. Behind me, the fake Mr. Harlan waited outside the front door with the second camera aimed directly at my apartment. Its red recording light blinked steadily. Rec. I made my choice. I ran into the pantry. The moment I crossed the threshold, the darkness swallowed me whole. The kitchen vanished behind me as if a door had slammed shut. Concrete appeared beneath my feet. Yellow fluorescent lights flickered overhead. I was back in the hallway. The floating black tape shot forward through the air, leading me deeper into the corridor like a compass needle. Behind me, I heard the apartment door burst open. The fake Mr. Harlan had entered. I sprinted after the tape. The hallway twisted in impossible ways. Left turns that should have led into neighboring apartments opened into stairwells, and doors were marked with numbers that didn't exist in my building. 3A, 3A1, 3A2, 3A3. Each door had a small red light above it. Some were dark. Some were blinking. One was glowing steadily. As I passed it, I heard my own voice coming from inside. Please, don't open the door. I stopped for half a second, staring at the handle. Then footsteps echoed behind me. Slow, measured, getting closer. I ran again. The black tape turned a corner and slipped beneath a steel door marked with the same symbol from the recording room. 2 overlapping circles with a vertical line through them. The door was already open. Inside was a smaller chamber than the recording room, almost like a control room. Dust covered the consoles, and dozens of dead monitors were mounted on the walls. Only one screen was still working. It showed my apartment. The fake Mr. Harlan stood in the living room holding the second camera. And on the screen, I was still there. A perfect copy of me stood frozen beside the kitchen counter, staring blankly ahead. My stomach dropped. The new recording had already created a duplicate. The copy slowly turned its head toward the camera. Its eyes were completely black. The fake Mr. Harlan smiled. Much better, he said to the duplicate. Now stay still while the recording finishes. I looked at the timestamp in the corner of the monitor. 12:01 a.m. Only 1 minute had passed in the apartment. The hallway was running on a different time. A voice came from the darkness behind me. You found the control room. I spun around. The woman stepped into the light. She looked more solid than before, though the bruises around her throat were still visible. Water dripped from the hem of her coat, and she kept glancing nervously toward the hallway. You're real, I said. As real as anyone can be down here. She pointed to the monitor. That thing in your apartment is learning your movements. Every minute it watches, it becomes harder to tell apart from the real you. Then how do I stop it? She walked to a rusted panel beside the monitor and opened it. Inside were 3 empty tape slots. The first slot belonged to the 1976 tape. You destroyed it, which is why the hallway is unstable. The second slot is connected to the camera in your apartment. If you remove that tape before the recording finishes, the duplicate will collapse. And if I don't? Her expression darkened. It will leave the apartment tomorrow morning pretending to be you. A chill ran through me. The footsteps outside the control room stopped. The woman went completely still. He found us. A shadow stretched across the doorway. The fake Mr. Harlan stepped into view, still carrying the second camera. Up close, the disguise was beginning to fail. The skin around his jaw flickered like static, and silver light leaked from the corners of his eyes. You're making this difficult, Ethan, he said calmly. The woman grabbed my arm. "There's another exit," she whispered, "but only one of us can use it before the hallway resets." The collector raised the camera. The red light blinked faster. "Rec." Then he pointed it directly at the woman and said, "Smile for the next recording." The collector pointed the camera at the woman. The red recording light blinked rapidly. "Rec, rec, rec." The woman's grip tightened around my arm. "Don't look into the lens," she whispered. I turned my face away instinctively. The air in the control room became heavy, and a faint buzzing pressure built inside my head, as if the camera were trying to pull something out of me. The collector smiled. "You remember the rules now," he said. "That's progress." The woman moved first. She shoved me toward the back of the room and lunged at the collector. The camera flashed bright red as she struck his arm, and the recording light flickered. For a split second, his human disguise vanished completely. Beneath the face of Mr. Harlan was a skull-like shape wrapped in strips of black magnetic tape, all of them writhing and tightening around each other like living wires. The woman screamed, "The tape! Get the tape out of his camera!" I spotted the cassette compartment on the side of the second camera. The monitor behind them showed my apartment in real time. The black-eyed duplicate was no longer standing still. It had started walking through the living room, slowly tracing its fingers along the walls as if memorizing the space. The timestamp read 12:04 a.m. I rushed forward. The collector saw me coming and threw the woman aside. She hit the wall hard and collapsed, gasping for breath. His silver eyes locked onto mine. "You should have taken the exit when you had the chance." He raised the camera toward my face. I ducked and slammed into him with my shoulder. The camera slipped from his hand and crashed onto the floor. The cassette compartment sprang open. Inside was a black tape with a white label, "Ethan Active." My heart stopped. The tape already had my name on it. The collector grabbed my throat with one hand and lifted me halfway off the ground. His touch was freezing, and the gray discoloration from earlier spread across my neck. "You're almost fully recorded," he whispered. I clawed at his arm, struggling to breathe. The woman crawled across the floor, reached the fallen camera, and shouted, "Ethan, catch!" She ripped the tape free and threw it toward me. I caught it with both hands. The collector's eyes widened in panic. "No!" He released me and lunged for the cassette. I stumbled backward toward the rusted control panel with the 3 tape slots. The woman pointed to the center slot. "Put it in. The system can reverse the recording if the active tape is returned before it finishes." The collector was almost on top of me. I shoved the cassette into the center slot. The panel came alive. Red warning lights flashed across the room. A deep mechanical voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Active recording detected. Rewind protocol available." A lever slid out beneath the panel. The woman shouted, "Pull it!" The collector hit me from behind, knocking me against the controls. Pain exploded through my shoulder. The monitors flickered wildly. On the screen, the duplicate in my apartment suddenly stopped moving. It turned its head toward the camera, and its black eyes widened as if it had heard the announcement. The mechanical voice repeated, "Rewind protocol available. 10 seconds to confirm." The collector wrapped both arms around me, trying to drag me away from the panel. "If you rewind the recording," he hissed into my ear, "you'll lose everything that happened after midnight. You won't remember the hallway, the woman, or the tapes. You'll wake up believing none of this was real." The woman stared at me from across the room. "And if you don't," she said quietly, "the duplicate becomes permanent." The countdown began. 10, 9. The duplicate on the monitor took another step through my apartment. The collector's grip tightened. 7. The woman whispered, "Choose, Ethan." 6. I reached for the lever. The collector screamed, "Don't." 5. My fingers closed around the cold metal handle, and I had to decide whether to erase the entire night or let the thing wearing my face walk out into the world tomorrow morning. My fingers tightened around the lever. The collector's arms were locked around my chest, trying to pull me away from the panel, while the woman stared at me from across the room with fear written all over her face. The countdown echoed through the speakers. 4. The monitor showed my apartment. The duplicate had reached the front door. It was touching the deadbolt. 3. The collector whispered in my ear, his voice suddenly calm. If you pull that lever, you lose her too. I looked at the woman. For the first time, she looked uncertain. 2. The duplicate unlocked the first bolt. 1. I pulled the lever. The entire control room screamed. Every monitor turned white, flooding the room with blinding light. The collector was thrown backward as if an explosion had gone off inside the walls, and the black tape in the center slot began spinning in reverse so fast it became a blur. The mechanical voice boomed through the room. Rewind protocol confirmed. The monitor image jerked backward. I watched the duplicate move in reverse, stepping away from the front door, retracing its path through the living room. The shadows around its body peeled away like smoke being sucked into a vacuum. The timestamp raced backward. 12:04, 12:03, 12:02. The collector screamed in rage. You don't know what you're undoing. His body was coming apart, strips of black magnetic tape tearing away from him and whipping through the air toward the spinning cassette. The woman grabbed my arm. When the rewind reaches midnight, the hallway will try to take a replacement, she shouted over the noise. Don't let it choose you. The floor began to crack open beneath the control panel. Through the gaps, I could see the concrete hallway collapsing into darkness. The timestamp hit 12 hours and 30 seconds. The duplicate on the monitor was gone completely. My apartment was empty. The collector tried to crawl toward the panel, but every movement caused more of his body to unravel. You need me, he shouted. Without a collector, the doors won't stay closed. The woman looked at him with hatred. You were never closing them. You were feeding them. The rewind reached 12 hours and 5 seconds. The room started folding in on itself. The walls bent at impossible angles, and the monitors ripped free from their mounts and vanished into the darkness below. The mechanical voice changed. Midnight threshold approaching. The woman's grip on my arm suddenly weakened. I looked at her and saw that her body was becoming transparent, just like future me had before disappearing. Ethan, she said softly, when the threshold resets, I won't exist in the hallway anymore. A lump formed in my throat. What happens to you? A sad smile crossed her face. I think I finally get to stop running. The timestamp hit 12 hours. Everything went silent. Then the black tape stopped spinning. A shockwave burst out from the panel. The control room vanished. The hallway vanished. The red door vanished. I felt myself falling through darkness for the second time that night. I woke up on the floor of my living room. Morning sunlight filled the apartment. The kitchen wall was intact. The pantry was open. No crack, no cold air, no hidden hallway. For several seconds, I couldn't remember where I was. Then I saw the burned camcorder on the carpet. Memory came back in fragments, the collector, the woman, the control room, the rewind. I grabbed my phone. 7:13 a.m. No messages. No unknown numbers. I checked my call history. Nothing from Mr. Harlan. Heart pounding. I opened my front door and looked across the hall. Apartment 3B was empty. A moving notice was taped to the door, dated 3 months ago. I stared at it, confused. Last week, I had spoken to Mr. Harlan in this hallway. I remembered helping him carry groceries upstairs. Did I remember that? Or had the hallway inserted those memories? I went back inside and locked the door. The apartment was completely silent. Then I noticed something sitting on the kitchen table. A single videotape. Gray. The label read, Apartment 3A, 1998. My breath caught. I was sure I had left that tape in the control room before the rewind. Slowly, I turned it over in my hands. On the back, written in small black letters I hadn't noticed before, was a message. If this tape still exists, the hallway remembers you. And underneath it, in different handwriting, do not answer the door at 11:47 p.m. At that exact moment, from somewhere deep in the building, I heard an elevator arrive on the 3rd floor. The doors opened. A pair of slow footsteps stepped out, and then came 3 familiar knocks. The knocks came from somewhere down the hallway. Knock. Pause. Knock. Another pause. Knock. I stood frozen in my kitchen, the gray tape clutched in my hands. The elevator doors had definitely opened. I had heard them. The footsteps had definitely stepped out. And now the knocking was moving closer. One apartment away. My mouth went dry. I looked at the clock on the microwave. 7:16 a.m. Broad daylight. The warning on the tape said 11:47 p.m. So why was it happening now? Another set of knocks echoed through the hallway, louder this time. Knock, knock, knock. I moved quietly toward my front door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. No footsteps, no person, no movement. Just the buzzing fluorescent lights and the closed elevator at the far end. Then, right in front of my door, a wet footprint appeared on the carpet. I jerked back. A second footprint formed beside it, as if an invisible person were standing outside my apartment. A third footprint appeared. They were facing my door. The doorknob turned slightly, not enough to open it, just enough to make the metal click. I backed away from the door, every instinct screaming at me not to touch it. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. I answered before I could think better of it. Static filled the line. Then a woman whispered, "It remembers your apartment now." My chest tightened. "Who is this?" A long pause. "You pulled the rewind lever," she said. "That broke the cycle, but it didn't erase you from the hallway. It only erased the recording." It was her voice, the woman from the monitors. "You're alive." A faint, bitter laugh came through the static. "I don't think that's the right word anymore." Another knock hit the door. Boom! The entire frame rattled. I jumped. The woman spoke quickly. "Listen carefully. The hallway can't fully open unless a recording is active. That gray tape is the only thing still connecting your apartment to the original recording from 1998. I looked down at the cassette in my hand. "So if I destroy it, this stops?" Silence. Then she said, "Maybe." That answer terrified me more than anything. The doorknob turned again. This time it kept turning until it hit the lock. The woman's voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't let it trick you into opening the door. It can use voices, memories, even people you trust." A new voice came from outside. My mother's voice. "Ethan? Honey, open the door." I stopped breathing. My mother lived 4 hours away. "Ethan, are you okay? I've been calling you." Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. The voice was perfect. The same warmth, the same slight tremble she had when she was worried. My hand moved toward the lock. The woman shouted through the phone, "That isn't her." I froze. Outside, my mother's voice became more urgent. "Please, Ethan, I just want to make sure you're safe." The gray tape suddenly grew warm in my hand. The label began to darken, the ink bleeding across the plastic until new words appeared beneath apartment 3A, 1998. Slowly, letter by letter, a second line formed. Next occupant, Ethan. My blood turned to ice. The tape was changing. The recording was choosing me again. The woman's voice became distorted, breaking apart under the static. "It's rewriting the label. Ethan, you have to leave the apartment now." "Go where?" "Anywhere without a door." The lights flickered. For a split second, the hallway appeared through my living room wall. A long concrete corridor stretching into darkness. And standing in that corridor was the silver-eyed collector, completely restored, watching me with a faint smile. He raised one hand and pointed directly at the gray tape. Then the vision vanished. A final knock shook the apartment. Boom! The deadbolt cracked. And from the other side of the door, my mother's voice whispered, "You already opened it once." The crack in the deadbolt spread with a sharp metallic snap. I stumbled backward, clutching the gray tape against my chest while my mother's voice whispered through the door, "You already opened it once." The warmth of the cassette became unbearable. I looked down. The label had changed again. The words "next occupant, Ethan" were now stamped across the plastic in thick black letters, and beneath them a new line was slowly appearing as if typed by an invisible machine. "Recording scheduled. 11:47 p.m. My phone hissed with static. The woman's voice was breaking apart. "Ethan, listen. If the tape finishes rewriting, the hallway won't need a camera anymore." "What does that mean?" A burst of distortion swallowed half her answer. "It will use your apartment as the new recording room." The lights went out. Not flickered, went out. The apartment dropped into complete darkness. Then the fluorescent glow of the hallway began shining through the cracks around the front door, far brighter than it should have been. The light stretched across the floor like liquid. I backed into the living room and grabbed the flashlight from the couch. The beam cut through the darkness. For a second, everything looked normal. Then I swept the light across the wall beside the television and froze. A red door was outlined there. Not a real door, just a glowing outline, pulsing faintly beneath the paint as if something on the other side was trying to push through. The outline grew brighter. A slow creak echoed from inside the wall. The hallway was rebuilding itself. Another impact hit the front door. Boom! The chain lock snapped loose. My mother's voice became desperate. "Ethan, please. It's cold out here." I pressed my hands over my ears. "You're not her." Silence. Then, in a completely different voice, the collector's voice, the thing outside said, "Good. You're learning." The doorknob stopped moving. The hallway light vanished from beneath the door. For several seconds, there was no sound at all. And that silence was worse than the knocking. My flashlight beam drifted back to the red outline on the wall. The glowing shape was becoming solid. Paint cracked and fell away. A real door handle began pushing outward from beneath the plaster. The gray tape vibrated in my hands. A new message appeared on its label. "Anchor required." The woman came back through the phone, faint and distant. "It needs someone to stay in the apartment when the door opens. If the apartment is empty, the hallway can't anchor itself." "You want me to stay here?" "No. I want you to make it think you stayed." I looked around the room desperately. The burned camcorder was still on the floor where I had left it that morning. An idea hit me. I set the flashlight down, propped the camcorder on the coffee table facing the glowing red door, and pressed the power button out of habit. Impossible. The dead camera turned on. The screen filled with static, then switched to a live view of the living room. The red door outline glowed brightly in the frame. The tape label pulsed warm against my palm. "Anchor detected." The camcorder was being recognized as a recording device. The woman understood immediately. "Ethan, that's it. Leave the camera there and get out of the apartment before the door fully forms." A deep groan echoed through the wall. The red outline split down the middle. A narrow gap appeared. Cold yellow light spilled into the living room. I grabbed my keys and moved toward the back of the apartment, planning to use the fire escape through the bedroom window. As I reached the hallway, the camcorder speaker crackled behind me. A voice came through it. My own voice. "Ethan, don't leave me here." I turned slowly. On the camcorder screen, I was still standing in the living room beside the coffee table. The copy looked directly into the lens. Then it looked directly at me and smiled. The red door behind it began to open from the inside. The thing on the camcorder screen had my face, my smile, my clothes, but its eyes were wrong, completely black, reflecting the red glow of the opening door behind it. And it was looking at me, not at the camera. The red door continued to open from the inside. A thin hand appeared in the gap, pale and wet, fingers curling around the edge of the frame. I backed down the hallway toward the bedroom, my pulse hammering in my ears. The copy spoke again through the camcorder speaker. "You can't leave me here, Ethan." His voice sounded exactly like mine. I forced myself to keep moving. The woman's voice burst through my phone in a wash of static. "Don't answer it. Don't talk to it. If it gets your attention, it can synchronize with you." The copy tilted its head, listening. Then it stepped out of the camcorder frame. A second later, I heard footsteps in the living room. Real footsteps. The camcorder was no longer just showing the copy. It had brought it into the apartment. I reached the bedroom and yanked the window open. Evening air rushed in, humid and warm compared to the freezing cold spreading through the rest of the apartment. The fire escape was right outside. Behind me, the footsteps stopped. Silence. Then my own voice came from the hallway. "Ethan, wait." I turned before I could stop myself. The copy was standing at the bedroom door. It looked perfect now. Normal eyes, normal expression, even a slight sheen of sweat on its forehead. If I had seen it on the street, I would have believed it was me. It smiled gently. "You don't have to run anymore." I took another step toward the window. The copy's smile widened. "You know what happens if you leave? The hallway will stay anchored to this apartment, and anyone who moves in after you becomes the next recording." My stomach twisted. "What are you?" It shrugged. "I'm the version that stayed." The red glow from the living room pulsed brighter. The woman shouted through the phone, "It's lying. Once you're outside, the anchor becomes unstable. The camera is the only thing holding the door open." The copy looked annoyed for the first time. "She still thinks this is about the camera." I stepped into the bedroom. I climbed onto the windowsill. The metal fire escape creaked beneath my feet. The copy stopped just inside the room, watching me carefully. "If you leave now, you'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Every apartment, every hotel room, every hallway. You'll wonder if the door is going to appear again." I swallowed hard. "Maybe. Or you could stay, and I'll take your place." The offer hung in the air. For one dangerous second, I imagined it. Walking away while the copy remained behind, letting it deal with the hallway forever. Then I noticed something in the mirror above my dresser. The copy had no reflection. The room reflected perfectly. I reflected perfectly. But where the copy stood, the mirror showed only the open bedroom doorway and the pulsing red light beyond it. The copy saw me looking. Its expression collapsed instantly. The friendly smile vanished. Its face stretched into something too wide, too thin, and the black eyes returned. "You shouldn't have checked the mirror." It moved, not walking, lunging. I jumped. The copy slammed into the window frame as I grabbed the fire escape ladder and dropped to the platform below. Metal rattled violently. I looked up. The copy was hanging halfway out the window, one hand gripping the frame, its body bending at an impossible angle. Inside the apartment, the red door was fully open now. Yellow hallway light flooded the living room. And standing in that doorway was the silver-eyed collector, restored. He looked past the copy and directly at me on the fire escape. Then he raised one hand and pointed upward. I followed his finger. On the roof of the building, directly above my apartment, another red door was appearing against the evening sky. The woman's voice came through the phone, terrified. "Ethan, run. The hallway has found a second entrance." The copy began climbing out of the window after me, and from the red door on the roof, I heard dozens of footsteps starting to descend toward the fire escape. The footsteps on the roof were getting closer. Clang, metal, clang, another step. The fire escape vibrated beneath me as I scrambled downward, one hand gripping the ladder, the other clutching my phone. Above me, the copy was climbing through the bedroom window with unnatural speed, its limbs bending too far at the joints. "Ethan!" the woman shouted through the phone. "Don't go down." I looked toward the alley below. The alley was gone. Where the street should have been, I saw a long concrete corridor stretching into darkness, lit by the same flickering yellow lights from the hallway. The building no longer seemed connected to the city at all. The hallway had swallowed the outside. I stopped climbing. The copy smiled from 2 platforms above me. "There's nowhere left to run." Then the rooftop door opened. 3 figures stepped out. They were all wearing dark coats. They were all carrying old camcorders. And they all had my face. Different ages, different scars, different expressions. One looked barely older than me. Another had gray hair. The tallest one had the same long scar I'd seen on future me in the hallway. The scarred version spoke first. "We've been looking for the original." A wave of nausea hit me. "Original." The woman's voice became very quiet. "Ethan, I don't think you were the first version anymore." The copy climbing behind me laughed softly. "He was never the first." The 3 versions began descending the fire escape from above while the copy climbed up from below. I was trapped between them, The scarred version kept talking as he came closer. Every time the recording fails, the hallway keeps a backup. Most of us were sent back out eventually. We thought we were the real Ethan until we found the others. "Shut up," I whispered. "You already know it's possible," he said. "You watched one of us come through the pantry wall." My chest tightened. Future me. The hallway version. The collector had called him a replacement. What if he hadn't been replacing me? What if he had been trying to warn me because he had once believed he was me too? The oldest version raised his camcorder. Its red light blinked. "Rec, only one of us can remain active outside the hallway," he said. "The others get pulled back when a new recording starts." The copy below me stopped climbing and looked up at the oldest version. "Then let the hallway choose." All four of them turned their cameras toward me. The red lights blinked in unison. Rec, 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 rec. A crushing pressure hit my head. Memories that weren't mine flooded in. Standing in this same stairwell years earlier. Opening a red door in a motel. Running through a subway tunnel. Hiding from the collector in an abandoned hospital. Watching another version of myself disappear behind a steel door. I dropped to my knees on the fire escape platform. The woman shouted my name, but her voice sounded far away. The oldest version stepped closer. "The hallway is trying to synchronize your memories. If it succeeds, you'll remember every version at once." Blood ran from my nose. The copy below me whispered, "It hurts less if you stop fighting." The fire escape groaned. One of the bolts holding the platform to the building snapped loose. The entire structure tilted outward several inches. Far below, the concrete hallway pulsed like a living thing. The oldest version looked down at it and then back at me. "There is one way to break synchronization," he said. "A version has to willingly return to the hallway." Silence. Then he lowered his camera. "I'll do it." The other versions stared at him. He gave me a tired smile, the same exhausted expression future me had worn before disappearing. "You still have a life out there, Ethan. Don't waste it trying to prove you're the original." Before anyone could stop him, he stepped off the fire escape. He didn't fall. The darkness below opened like water, and he vanished into it without a sound. The remaining cameras flickered. Their red recording lights went dark. For the first time since midnight, the pressure in my head eased. The copy below me looked terrified. "No, he can't choose to go back." The woman whispered through the phone. "Ethan, the anchor is weakening. This is your chance." The building shook violently. The red door on the roof began to collapse inward, and the hallway below started pulling everything toward it. The remaining versions, the loose metal railings, even the copy clinging to the ladder. The copy looked up at me with black, desperate eyes. Then it screamed my name as the darkness began dragging it downward. The copy screamed my name as the darkness pulled it downward. Its fingers clawed at the ladder, scraping sparks from the metal. But the hallway below had become a black whirlpool. The remaining versions of me were being dragged toward it as well, their coats snapping violently in the freezing wind. The oldest version was already gone. The younger one lost his grip first. He looked at me with terrified eyes and shouted, "Don't let the last door close," before the darkness swallowed him whole. The copy was still hanging on. His black eyes were fixed on me, full of panic. "Help me!" For a split second, it sounded completely human. Then the hallway pulled harder. The copy's body stretched unnaturally, flickering between different versions of my face. Young, old, scarred, exhausted, before it was ripped from the ladder and dragged screaming into the darkness below. Silence followed. The pull stopped instantly. The fire escape slammed back against the building with a deafening clang. I collapsed against the railing, shaking. Above me, the red door on the roof was crumbling apart. Chunks of glowing red wood broke away and dissolved into ash before they hit the metal stairs. The woman's voice came through the phone, weak but steady. "Ethan, look at the roof." I forced myself to stand. Where the red door had been, only a jagged crack remained in the air itself. A vertical tear glowing faintly yellow. Through it, I could see the concrete hallway stretching far into the distance. And something was walking toward the crack. Not the collector. This figure was shorter, wearing a dark coat with the hood down. As it came closer, I recognized the bruises around her throat. It was the woman. She stopped just behind the tier and looked directly at me. For the first time, there was no static distortion around her. "You broke the recording chain," she said. "The hallway is collapsing." "Then come through," I shouted. A sad smile crossed her face. "I can't. I'm part of the collapse." The crack flickered violently. Behind her, the hallway was coming apart. Lights bursting, walls folding inward, doors disappearing one by one. "What was your name?" I asked. She hesitated. Then she said, "Mara." The name hit me like a punch. I remembered the tape from the recording room. "Mara, 1998. You were the woman in the first apartment." She nodded. "I was the first one who tried to destroy a tape and survive. I failed." The hallway kept a copy of me for almost 30 years. The crack shrank another inch. Mara looked over her shoulder, and her expression changed. Fear. "He's still alive." A shadow appeared deep in the collapsing hallway. Silver eyes opened in the darkness. The collector. His body was damaged, strips of black tape hanging from him like torn flesh, but he was walking toward the crack with slow, deliberate steps. Mara looked back at me urgently. "Ethan, when the crack closes, he'll lose this entrance. But if he sees your face one last time, he can mark you again." I stepped back instinctively. The collector smiled from the darkness. "You can't hide forever." Mara moved in front of the crack, blocking his view. "Go," she said. "Get off the fire escape. Get out of the building before the reset finishes." "What about you?" The hallway around her was disintegrating now. Pieces of concrete floating away into black emptiness. She gave me a tired smile. "I think I'm finally going where the others went." The crack shrank rapidly. The collector lunged forward. Mara turned, grabbed the edges of the tier with both hands, and pulled them together. The collector's silver eyes widened in fury. "Mara, don't." The crack snapped shut like a closing wound. The yellow light vanished. The roof was just a roof again. No red door, no hallway, no collector, only the sound of rain beginning to fall. My phone went dead in my hand. The screen turned black. I stood alone on the fire escape, breathing hard, while the city slowly returned around me. The distant traffic, the hum of power lines, the normal sounds of a summer evening. For the first time since buying the camera, the world felt real again. Then I heard a mechanical click from inside my apartment. The burned camcorder had just turned itself on. The mechanical click came from inside my apartment. I turned slowly on the fire escape, rain dripping from my hair and jacket. The bedroom window was still open, and through the dark room I could see a faint red glow pulsing from the living room. The burned camcorder had turned itself on. Every instinct told me to run down the fire escape and never come back. But if the camera was active again, the hallway might not be gone. I climbed back inside. The apartment was colder than it had been a minute earlier. The rain outside sounded muffled, as if the walls were suddenly much thicker. The red glow came from the camcorder screen, which was facing the living room. I approached it carefully. The screen showed a single image, a red door standing in complete darkness. No hallway, no walls, just the door. At the bottom of the screen, white text flickered into view. "Final exit available." My stomach tightened. The camera speaker crackled. Mara's voice came through, faint and distant. "Ethan, this is the last door. Don't let him reach it before you do." I looked around the apartment. "Where is it?" The screen changed. Now it showed my bathroom. The camera slowly panned downward to the mirror above the sink. And in the reflection, the red door was standing behind me. I spun around. Nothing. The bathroom was dark and empty. When I looked back at the camcorder, the reflection was still there, the red door glowing softly behind the reflected version of me. A new sound echoed through the apartment. Knock, knock, knock. Not from the front door, from the bathroom mirror. I walked toward it, heart pounding. The mirror looked normal at first. My reflection stared back at me, pale and exhausted. Then the room behind my reflection began to change. The bathroom in the mirror grew longer, stretching into a narrow corridor that couldn't possibly fit inside the apartment. The red door stood at the far end, illuminated by flickering yellow lights, and standing beside it was the collector. His silver eyes locked onto mine through the reflection. "You should have stayed outside," he said. The mirror rippled like water. A cold hand shot out of it and grabbed my wrist. I shouted and tried to pull away, but the collector's grip was impossibly strong. The surface of the mirror stretched around my arm, swallowing it up to the elbow. The camcorder speaker screamed with static. Mara's voice cut through it. "Break the mirror!" I grabbed the heavy flashlight from the counter with my free hand and slammed it into the glass. The mirror exploded. The collector's hand vanished instantly, and I fell backward onto the bathroom floor. Shards of glass were scattered everywhere, but one large piece remained intact near the sink. And in that shard, I could still see the red door. The collector was walking toward it. The shard began sliding across the floor by itself, leaving a trail of frost. I crawled after it. The image inside the shard grew clearer. The collector stopped in front of the red door and placed one hand on the handle. He looked directly at me through the reflection. "This door leads out of the hallway forever," he said. "If I leave through it, every remaining entrance in your world stays open." My blood ran cold. "How do I stop you?" He smiled. "You open it first." The shard suddenly became warm in my hands. The red door inside it creaked open a few inches. Beyond it was not darkness. I could see a city street in daylight, people walking, cars passing, a normal world. The collector's expression changed. For the first time, he looked afraid. Mara whispered through the camcorder, "Ethan, that door is real. It's the exit the hallway has been hiding from him for decades." The collector reached for the handle. The shard vibrated violently. I realized what I had to do. I pressed my hand against the reflection of the door. The glass turned liquid beneath my palm, and the collector lunged forward from the other side at the exact same moment. The moment my hand touched the liquid glass, the shard pulled me forward. The collector lunged from the other side at the exact same instant, his silver eyes blazing with panic. For a fraction of a second, we collided in the space between worlds. A freezing void filled with strips of black magnetic tape whipping through the darkness like living snakes. Then the void split open. I was thrown onto wet asphalt. Daylight blinded me. Cars rushed past. People were walking along a city sidewalk, completely unaware that I had just fallen out of a shattered mirror. The air smelled of rain and gasoline instead of concrete and mildew. I scrambled to my feet and turned around. There was no mirror, no red door, only the reflective window of a closed convenience store. Inside the glass, I saw the collector. He was trapped behind the reflection, pounding silently against the inside of the window while cracks spread across the mirrored surface around him. Mara's voice echoed faintly in my head. "Don't let him see your face." I looked away immediately. The reflection darkened. When I glanced back a second later, the collector was gone. My phone buzzed. The screen was working again, but there was no signal, no service provider, just a single new message from unknown. "Exit confirmed." Another message appeared beneath it. "The hallway has lost its collector." And then a third. "One recording remains." A chill ran through me. I looked down and realized I was still holding something. A videotape, black, completely unlabeled. The final tape. The plastic was warm, almost like it had been sitting in sunlight for hours. I wanted to throw it into the street, but the moment I loosened my grip, I heard Mara's voice one last time, clearer than it had ever been. "Don't destroy it yet." I froze. "Why?" Silence. Then very softly, "Because it isn't recording you anymore." The tape clicked. The compartment popped open by itself. Inside was a strip of magnetic film with a single frame exposed. I held it up to the light. The image showed a room I had never seen before. A small apartment, a desk covered in papers, and a computer screen displaying a video titled, "The Camera That Recorded Tomorrow Chapter 1. Someone was watching the story, and on the wall behind that person, faintly reflected in a dark window, A red door was beginning to appear. My blood turned cold. The hallway wasn't hunting me anymore. It was looking for the next viewer. The tape compartment snapped shut. The plastic label began writing itself in black ink. Slowly, letter by letter, a new title appeared. Play for the next recording. I stood alone on the sidewalk, surrounded by ordinary people living ordinary lives, while traffic moved through the rain and the final tape grew warm in my hands. Then my phone buzzed one last time. A final message appeared. If you keep the tape, you become its guardian. If you play it, you become its doorway. I looked at the black cassette, then at the dark window of the convenience store. For a split second, I thought I saw a red outline reflected behind me. I didn't turn around. I slipped the tape into my jacket pocket and started walking away from the glass, away from the reflection, while the rain fell harder and the city carried on as if nothing had happened. But deep in my pocket, the tape motor began to turn on its own. Click, whir, and somewhere far behind me, from a reflection I never looked back at, came 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. The end, or the next recording.